rather than the mindless drivel we've been dealing with,
Ooh, what kind of mindless drivel you've been dealing with?
the nonsense of consulting for startup companies and the joys and pitfalls and red flags and warning signs.
Watching it all from the inside and just having that gut feel like, I know we're building this out of paper. I know it's going to collapse. I just don't know when.
Hmm.
Are you at a new place, Steve, or are you still at the same place?
Same place. 2.5 years, my friend. Going on 3.
That's it?
Woohoo!
Are they starting another new business?
Not to my knowledge.
They're just keeping you busy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
2.5 years is fun.
And a landmine was rolled into my area, into my team. Excuse me, a grenade. I often refer to it as a grenade was rolled into my little area. Like, hey, here's this thing we want you guys to handle, and we are going to like back away. It is what it is, and it rolls in, and I take a look at it, and I'm like, what the hell is this, and what do you want us to do? And early indications and medium indications are complete scavenger hunt. Do you ever get those?
Nice.
The scavenger hunt requirements?
So you have to go out and find out what you're supposed to build by asking a lot of people?
Yeah. And you don't just look here, but you got to look over here. And it's like, hey, if you were doing your job and you're going to roll me this grenade, make it a tidy little package that's easily consumable.
That's
and
right.
Instead, it's a scavenger hunt.
It wouldn't be a grenade then.
Right. It would be a little care package.
Look here. Here's a small amount of work. We've packaged it all up, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Said no company ever to a consultant.
Right? That is so true.
Well,
I can't tell if they all think, like if they all actually think that they do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like if they think that they're really good, or if they know that they're really bad, but they're pretending for some reason.
This little gem of a grenade that got rolled to me was from another contractor.
Oh, nice.
Who I believe, and I have had an independent source, not so independent, but my close personal friend at this particular engagement, basically kind of come to the same conclusion, which is this person talks a lot of words with a lot of authority, but none of the words actually mean anything.
They are using the internet bullshit generator, stringing together lots of tight phrases that sound like action and really mean nothing.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the MO for that company, and just in general, that space. Like anybody I've ever known that has come from that space is like that, or they have that tendency. Like they want to be in lots of meetings and talk a lot, but not actually do anything.
Oh, could be. But this person does what I do, so I don't know. Maybe.
Nobody does what you do, Steve.
Wait, do they do what you do? Or
nobody can possibly do what I do. No, that is not the case.
Do you think they talked themselves into this project and then realized that they were holding a live grenade and tossed it over to you? Or
if I were to, as I often do, practice psychology without a license, I believe it is this person really doesn't understand what needs to be built and is basically just like going, you go take care of it. Here, I'm handing it off to you, but I'm giving you no context because I don't understand it. And if you ask questions about it, I am going to go on the offensive. Because the best defense is a good offense.
Sure.
So, anyway, that was a little gem this week. We all have those.
Did Did you finish the project in a week? Were they like, it's going to take a month and you did it in like a couple days?
No, haven't really had one of those, because by the time everything gets unpacked, nobody understands it other than me, and I'm like, this is a lot of stuff. They're like, well, explain it to me. And then I start going into, well, you got this, and you got this database thing here, and you got the UI, and you've got to cut over, right at this point, and everything thereafter has to work, and can't just go in at a piecemeal, because here's what's going to happen, and this is, anyway. I'm not telling you anything you guys don't already know.
Those are my favorite phrases.
What are we going to talk about? We can't be talking about this, because I lived this. I don't need to philosophize about it. I've been living it this week.
Have you ever read a book and just been like, just within the first 10 pages, been instantly validated?
Have I been validated, like this book is me, or I could have written this book, or I really grok what this guy is talking about, this is what I want to be when I grow up, or what I want to do? Because I have books that I've read that are like, yes, I like this, this is what I wanted to hear right now, and I want to go forward with that. But I've never read a book where it says, oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah, give us an example of what validation means to you, because I feel like you've got one in mind right now.
Well, no, it happened. That's why I'm asking. I don't want to say what it is, though.
Harry Potter.
Never read the books, never watched the movies. Not a Harry Potter kid.
Wow.
And also, let's be honest, this is stolen from a comedian. Harry Potter is just Star Wars with sucky lightsabers.
Ooh, okay.
Harry Potter's a whiny baby, so is Luke.
Luke is a whiny baby. That's true.
Luke, his parents died, and he has to go live with his uncle. Same thing with Harry Potter.
So, do you think that was book one was Star Wars, and then
book two was Harry Potter?
Oh goodness, I've created a monster. I need to write another book.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that, but yeah.
What is The Empire Strikes Back? How does that go?
But then a lot of stories are just retold and reskinned, right?
Of course.
Yep. How I Met Your Mother is just Friends. It's like my favorite. There's tons of evidence to support that they just copied Friends. But my most favorite one is an episode where Ted is dating this woman, and he had been dating her and then starts dating her again and then dumps her on her birthday.
Oh,
well,
nice.
this same episode, the same woman played a character on Friends who got dumped by her boyfriend on her birthday, and she was talking to Rachel and Phoebe. But it was the same actress that played both people. And I'm like, they just leaned into it.
Yeah, when they were casting the net, they were like, we need somebody who's done this before. Boom, yeah, right here.
To me, I'm like, well, kudos for just admitting it. Like, that's totally fine.
Right.
But to me, it's like, how could you not be copying Friends when it's like they were on there for one episode and it was like a real specific story arc for her little cameo, and then you do the same thing in your show.
Well, and I mean, I don't remember how many episodes both of those shows had, but they had, 8 or 10 seasons, right? And that's a lot of stories to come up with.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys have been podcasting for a while. Don't you suddenly sit back and go, huh, well, I guess we can talk about the same thing that I heard on a podcast the other day.
We talk about things we've already talked about over and over and over again.
Exactly.
Yes,
Personas.
We do.
I'm
Personas comes up. Yeah.
I'm excited for when Beth comes to talk about teams again. Super excited to do that.
Nice.
I've completed my thought though, so we'll be able to put it to rest.
You're gonna have to try to draw her out of her shell, so she will, state what she thinks rather than like standing back and going, "Oh my God, these two guys are going at it." They are going. It's fisticuffs. She's getting out of the way of us. We had a disagreement, Peter.
You did?
Ethan and I disagreed.
Huh.
It nearly came to blows virtually.
You could see her in the episode. She like literally pulls back in her chair.
Wow. I've known both you guys for a really long time, and I just can't imagine what would cause you to go at it so much.
It was not. It was not at all. It was. We both had strong opinions, but we were taking the opposite side, and Beth interpreted that as, "Oh my gosh, these guys are just the throwdown is right now," and we were just passionate about our different positions. That's all. No big deal.
I
And-
Had that. Oh, go ahead.
I've definitely been accused of being a little too passionate about an idea and come off a little too strong and try to in my family, that's how you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working with a friend. We were out at a place, and we were kind of arguing, but we were very passionate about our stances on this particular subject. And we were talking, it was about product. Like we were talking about work, and all of a sudden this, like the head of UX shows up and she's like, "Are you guys doing all right over here?" And we're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, apparently it sounded angry to everybody else. It's like, I guess, we're just, our voices are a little bit lower. Maybe they carry a little bit more through the building.
And if it wasn't for all the workplace violence that other people were having, then they probably wouldn't have come up, right? But they're just worried.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, so
Have you had an occasion, by the way, or an experience with workplace violence on a serious note?
Nothing beyond yelling and swearing, I don't think.
I don't think so. Like,
Feel
not
like I
ever
should have by
even.
now, but
I've never, like, yelling's one of my red lines. Like, that's not, somebody yells at me, I'm just gonna walk away and walk out. Which has never happened. I've heard stories of people like yelling, and I've heard stories of stuff. I've seen people turn red. Just purple one time.
From blood?
He just blood in his head because he was so angry about what we were talking about.
My only encounter with workplace violence was this had to have been almost 20 years ago. And I had been doing a bunch of technical work, kind of in the vein that Peter, some of the stuff that you do.
sure.
And this was out in Seattle. And I was finishing up an engagement, and I was in the office, and I get called in and to this manager's office. He says, "Hey, we need you to go out to this client." And it is a very large client that they wanted me to go to in the Seattle area.
Weird.
And they said, "We need you to go out there and act as and they called them engineers out there, but really it was a business analyst." This was this is how I pivoted
Nice.
from being technical to being an analyst. "We need you to go out there and play this role. And the reason we need to do that is because the fellow consultant that you know physically threatened the other consultant that was there." And so we had to fire him.
Wow.
And we don't have anybody available, and we need somebody to backfill, and you are available. We need you to go do this. Can you do it? I'm like, "Sure, I'll go do it." I had no idea what I was doing. I walked in there, it was a blast. I had a super fun time, but there was this like weird vibe when I got there, like from apparently whatever had happened was like a significant event.
Were they wondering if you tagged out in the parking lot in wrestling and you're the next team member coming in for the...
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't that, because I think it was like a couple days later.
Okay.
But I will say it was a very odd situation to go into. You know,
Did you feel a lot of pressure, or was it freeing knowing that the guy you replaced like went out on such insane terms that you could almost, I mean, imagine the screw up that you would have to do to go above and beyond that?
that is a really good question. And I'm trying to think back. I think I was just sort of just trying to tread water and hope that I could pull off whatever they were asking me to do. And it turned out going just fine. Like, it was one of the funnest things I had ever done, and why I changed careers at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think I was more worried. I was more paranoid. Like, I've got to do this.
I gotta clean this up. I gotta take
Yep.
this and
Yep.
turn it around.
And this was actually like one of my favorite moments of my career, quite frankly. It was speaking of validation. So, and I'm sorry to filibuster on this topic, but it's a really good story, at least to me, because I remember it vividly. But we had this advisor on the project, and he was kind of this older retired guy, but he was like doing consulting for this company as well. And there were a few of us that did what I did, but we'd be meeting with these subject matter experts in the aerospace industry, okay, which was new to me. And so I'd be meeting with the subject matter expert, and we'd be defining kind of like processes, right? And this advisor kept showing up to my meetings. Like, okay, we got these other people that are having meetings, but he keeps coming to mine, and I'm like, okay, he's coming to mine because he knows I don't know what the hell I'm doing. That's in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. And at one point, I think he and I are sitting in a conference room waiting for the subject matter expert to show up, and I just kind of just said, okay, I'm just going to ask him. I'm like, hey, I noticed, John, that you keep showing up to these meetings, are you should I be changing something? What should I be doing differently? Are you do you have any advice for me? And he's like, oh, no. I'm just showing up because your meetings are awesome and they're fun, and you are the greatest business analyst I've ever worked with. I have had 30 analysts report to me at one time when I worked for this company. You're great. I just love being in your meetings. And I was like, I fooled him.
There you go.
Yeah. That was one of those moments where I went, I like went home going, maybe I should be doing this. So
That's awesome.
So from the physical violence aspect into, hey, here we go. This is what I'm going to do.
New career choice. I've seen wrestling in the snow-covered parking lot after like a Christmas party or a happy hour before.
Was it good-natured wrestling?
It was. They were for real wrestling because, they're both wrestlers, and wrestlers always...
They seek each other out. They know.
All the wrestlers I know are willing to wrestle.
Sure.
Just cause. I don't know a lot, but yeah, it was pretty good natured, and it ended up, determining that no, neither one of you should drive.
That's great.
So, but yeah, it was pretty fun. I think that's the closest I've ever come to. I had high school violence, but not.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of fights.
Super seriously wrestling, life-threatening, but.
At work, the closest I've seen is the most epic walkout ever.
Oh, nice.
So this is the
Really?
same place. Yeah, this is the same place. This was like a year before the argument happened, but it's the same. It was the same place. And so this place was really funny. So when I first got there, their stand-ups were hilarious because it was a pit style, if you guys are familiar with that. So instead of cubes, they were basically tables, and everybody sat at the table kind of shoulder to shoulder in a giant area to fit as many people, and we had 64 people in that space. It was like 4 people to a table.
Oh,
We're sitting there with our laptops. It was a blast. Like it was kind of fun. I was terrible, like we should never go back to that ever. But it was kind of fun. So they had this really weird like legacy front end thing, and they had one developer that knew how to do it. And this person they'd been trying to convert to full time. They had saved up a bunch of money so they could buy a house in the cities they lived down south. And then they didn't like how the conversion from consultant to like full time was supposed to go. They were like annoyed that they had to apply. I'm like, well, yeah, like you don't just get it. Anyway, so they're already a little torqued about that. And then one day we had like the nicest tech lead ever, like very smart guy and like super nice. I really loved working with him. So he had been, I think it was someone from the architecture group or something. They had talked to him about a potential way to solve this issue in the legacy space. So we're doing stand-ups, so all 64 of us stand up around the edge of the pit. Just go in a circle. It's freaking terrible. But
how long does that take?
it took a half hour.
Oh,
For us to like rapid fire the stuff too, like for each person to spend like
yeah.
30 seconds on it. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And so we get to this one particular issue, and he's like, hey, I know we had this issue with this, and he's like, I was talking to some other people, and this is how they talked about solving it. And she was like, she's like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm the only one that does this. I'm tired of people telling me how to do my job. And she's like, I'm done. And she had like this like 3-tiered plastic tub thing that had like her Diet Cokes and her like snacks in it. And she started packing it up and packing all of her stuff up. And we all sat there and watched, like we were watching a car wreck, and nobody said anything as she quit. And she's throwing all her stuff in there, and then she gets up after like a couple minutes and takes it all and then walks out of the pit, never to be seen again. And then the project manager, of course, had to go run after her and try and talk her off the ledge, which they didn't do, because she's like, I'm not going to move up here. I've got like a bunch of money now saved up. Like, I'm just going to take some time off.
Wow.
That's awesome. I mean, to just know, like, or to be pushed. I've never been and maybe I'm just too dumb to realize people are pushing me around and making me do things their way instead of my way. But yeah, I just like, wow, that's epic.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously this wasn't the first time that this kind of thing had happened, but it's
Of course.
Is that like that solutioning mindset type? Like everybody wants to, like, if you're building a new thing and you talk to a customer, they're like, I need it to do this thing this way. And it's like, well, why don't you tell me what the problem is first, and then we'll go from there, instead of telling me what you think is going to solve your problem. And so that's what happened, is these people were leads in a different technology, but clearly still wanted to be front-end developers and thought they knew everything and wanted to solution it, and she just had enough. So
I heard you were doing this system, and I came up with this great idea for you, even though
Yeah.
I've never worked with it or looked at the code, but I think you should do it this way.
So
That's hilarious.
where does the line get drawn between just sucking it up and dealing with it and setting boundaries? Because
Oh,
this sounds like, I mean, this feels like Your story sounds like something that 15 years ago I would have gone, man, I can't believe she did that. And today I would have gone, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I can't believe she waited 3 times to do
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah, took you long enough. Yeah.
It was, so the people that did it, that were doing it, that was like, we had problems with them the entire time we were out there. And I remember one time we were in this meeting and one of them had come to this meeting with our team. They're part of like a, you know, not enterprise level, but you know, like IT level architecture group, like front endish, right? And so we're sitting there and we were talking through as it like how we were going to implement something, and they just started going into everything that was wrong. And in the meeting I'm like, hey, all you're doing is fear mongering and you need to stop. Like, we don't need that. That's not what we're like. We don't care how everything's going to go wrong. Like, that's all you do. And we're done with it. As a way of setting boundaries. And we did have a number of the same people. We wanted to, it is getting into the details, but we wanted to test something. We wanted to A/B test it, but they didn't have A/B testing capability at the time. So we had to come up with our own solution. And we came up with our own solution, but we needed to get buy-in from them. And so for 3 days, so we came up with a solution, we get buy-in from them, and then we go home, and for some reason the next morning something had magically changed and they weren't on board with it. That happened 3 times in a row. And after the 3rd time we're like, we're just gonna do whatever we want.
Here, sign this piece of paper that says exactly what you just agreed to in
Yeah.
person, because tomorrow we need to present this paper back to you, because you're going through a time warp somewhere and you're forgetting everything that we talked about and changing your mind. Not fair.
And this, Steve, this happened 10 years ago ish. 9 or 10 years ago is when this happened. So it was crazy back then, you know, because we're talking 2012, 2013, maybe not fully recovered from the, you know, recession or whatever back then, but it was, the only reason they were able to do it is because they'd saved up so much money for a down payment on a house. But
Wow.
And the other thing was the place that they lived, like the house that they lived in, was paid off. Like, they didn't owe money on that house. They'd saved up money for a down payment on another house to move up here because they're moving to a more expensive place. And then they're like, no, I'm just like, they're just like, I'm done. I'm gonna go get another job. I'm gonna take like 6 months off. So I think that's the only reason that it was able to happen. They're paycheck to paycheck. I don't see them doing that, but maybe.
Have either of you guys ever, like, I don't know, had the urge to pack up your stuff and...
Done a mic drop?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've done it before. It's so
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Man.
I had 2 jobs though, and so like was working 2 jobs, and I was really tired of like the main one, and I was tired of it. So I can't remember if I'd gotten the part-time job had been converted to full-time yet or not. And maybe I'd talk to someone and they're like, yeah, we can make you full-time, and that's, you know, like there was a backup plan, which is what enabled it. But yeah, I went in, it was like the client site that I hated the most, and I was there and I'd had enough, and like my manager was there, and I went in at lunchtime. I'm like, hey, I'm leaving for lunch, never coming back. And I walked out, handed him my badge, and I walked out.
Oh man.
Wow.
It was so great.
And no second thoughts or any, like, am I really doing this?
No.
Is it April 1st? Can I go back in and get my badge back somehow?
No, it was
That's awesome.
it felt great because I didn't like it. And so, because I actually took a pay cut to go to this other place,
Sure.
and that's how bad it was.
I have never torched a bridge like that before. It's just,
Oh yeah.
that'd be so fun. So fun.
It was a blast.
I mean, I read those stories, and you're just like, yes,
Right.
I want to do that someday, but I can't really think of a time where I felt like that's it. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I'm, doing more development work and not dealing with as much business political stuff, because I know that kind of thing would drive me bananas, which is why I don't do that kind of thing, because I would probably end up maybe coming under physical violence or something like that.
Well, that's the joy of consulting, is you can keep all the nonsense politics at
Right.
arm's reach or at arm's length away from you, as long as for as long as you really want. You're like, don't bother me with that. I just want to get my stuff done.
Yeah, that really has, and especially as I've gotten more experience, just knowing like, oh yeah, I don't gotta know. I don't care about that. I don't care if you two don't get along. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to do a thing, and I'm here to go.
Yep.
You guys don't have to like each other. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that, and I could picture that exact scenario where I'm at right now, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that.
You guys have fun.
Yep.
Getting mad at each other. I'm gonna be over here not doing that, because
Yep.
Yeah, the place that you're at, I was there too, and I was on a different side, and I think it was the most insane politics I'd ever seen, and the reason is because they straddled the nonprofit for-profit space.
Oh.
So my experience is that nonprofits have the worst politics. I was at a place that had 35 people. It was a nonprofit, and it was more wild than a company with 100,000 employees worldwide politics. It was insane, because it's like there's 35 people. It's like, but everybody. Like, you can see what they're doing from their desk. Like, you basically are just walking around swinging your arms at people. I don't know. And so I just wanted to work while I was there, but all they wanted to do was play games. And it finally got to a point where I talked to our contact, and I'm like, I can't work with this person anymore. I'm like, I just want to do work, and they don't want to do work, and I'm tired of them railroading everything, and like, I don't want to talk to them anymore. And I stopped talking to them.
Were they trying to get you to referee something? Like, oh, if I can get Ethan on my side, I will win. No.
They I don't know. As far as I can tell, it was super weird, because I don't have a problem with politics. What I don't like is when we're trying to do a thing, and then you come to a meeting that's for that specific thing, and what you've actually done instead of your job is coordinated with some other person and then completely railroad everything. Like, that's the first time that happened. I'm like, no, I'm not, no way. So yeah, that's more what it was, is like, they I don't think these two people I'm thinking about, I don't think they actually knew what they were doing in their job, and they used these politics and work together as a way to keep people from noticing that they didn't know what they were doing.
Two magicians throwing up smoke screens and moving between them.
Because one of them was just like, I was just thinking about, they used the biggest words they could when they were talking all the time. And I can't, like, to me, I don't know about you guys, but to me, my stance is, I think it's great if you can say the big words and understand all the big words, but I think it's even cooler if you can use all the little words and still say the same thing.
Unless there's a word that just perfectly represents it, but yeah, usually it's
like unflappable.
Right.
Or confab, that's another one that,
See, I haven't had the huge politics where I'm at, like probably you did, Ethan. My bigger exposure to politics was at a Fortune 50 company. I felt that was just awful. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, corporate politics are like, some of them are crazy, and it's, you know, what was wild to me was going from a corporate politics to then this nonprofit. This one new person came in swinging, just swinging at one person in particular, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Is hilarious, because this was when Trump got elected, and that next day she said, the same lady who came in swinging, she's like, I had to take half a Valium just to get through today. And I'm like, we're doing drugs at work now.
Well, only half.
It's just,
Only half.
I know, only half, and it's Valium. I'm like, that is the whitest lady thing I have ever heard.
I didn't even know it still existed out there, or would be something that you'd say at work.
Yes, that was also weird. I thought that was strange that it was offered up. Yes. Maybe it was the Valium talking. I don't know.
Those, yeah, politics. I remember when I started my first job, kind of being a witness, or kind of being sort of a spectator to the politics. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's amazing to watch you just churn things to like your little fiefdoms, and oh, we're gonna secretly take this work away from this other team, and we're gonna do it. They think they're doing it, but they're not. We're doing that work. And like, okay.
I had a friend that they're at a place, and they've been doing work since, basically the whole time they've been there, which has been quite a while. And there was some kind of like random meeting that she got put on, and her and her boss go to it, and it's this third-party consultant agency that's doing the exact thing that they have been doing. And so of course they're freaking out, because now it's like, well, so they're doing all that work, and then they're gonna read their report in January. And I'm like, so I mean, you know, I'm sure you saw the feeling of people like, now what do I do? Do I still do this work? Am I going to go somewhere else and do something in this company? Am I leaving this company?
I've been the third-party consultant coming in to do that work too. So like, we need you to come in and do this so that we can do things the way we need to do them.
And it's from a consultant perspective, like, it's, you just got told this is what we need. Like, nobody told you that there was another group.
No, there wasn't
work.
like,
Right.
Oh, and by the way, we're going to backstab this group over here, and we're using you to do that. So can you help us out? Like, no.
So this is funny. So from my days at this place in 2000, this place was wild. I was there for like 4 years. So just some of the craziest. So there were two guys there. They worked for a company called Intertech, which you might be familiar with.
Not to be confused with Inatech.
With Inatech. And then they said, yeah, while we were there, they brought in 2 consultants to evaluate the effectiveness of everybody's job. He's like, we called them the Bobs.
That's
like,
awesome.
Exactly. Like, what are the odds of that?
Mm-hmm.
They were developers, yes.
The Bobs. That's amazing. Just to have somebody come in and do that.
I saw a couple people get walked out, which is hilarious to see. I don't know if you've seen that at large organizations. So it's different when somebody walks themselves out. It's very different than when somebody gets escorted out by security. And one of them, it's really funny because this dude came in. He didn't like our group. He didn't and then tried to get out of our group as quickly as he could, and then didn't want to talk to us. And then his last day, when he was getting walked out, he was all talky to us, right? But there was someone else that got walked out, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, what happened? And they're like, they were hoarding information. And I'm like, what? That's a thing. So they had to walk him out.
I didn't know that was a fireable offense, because that happens all the time.
Yes, it is, which is, I think we were at a place together and I had called that out about somebody, because yes, they had to make sure that they didn't know, and they had to walk them out so they could seize their laptop before they did anything with the information, because they've been hoarding it. And I'm like, well, that sounds really bad.
Was it top secret information? And like, that's just like
yeah, that was,
you guys said, hoarding information happens all the time.
Yeah, that was the question that we had, is like, what information, like how confidential? No, they wouldn't tell us because it was confidential, but that's classified.
It's classified. Wow.
And to your point, Steve, like, it does happen all the time. Sometimes it's by accident, but sometimes it's not.
I don't even think it's like, I don't even think it's intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's just survivalist mode. It's not even, I am not going to say anything because I want to protect my job. It becomes, I don't want to say too much because I want to be secure. And it just becomes this response that is ingrained into people.
Do you think it's because they're good at that one thing and they don't, like, their plasticity of their brain is like, I'm gonna get really good at this one thing and I'm not gonna do anything else at this company?
Yeah,
but this one thing.
I know this one thing, and it's super important to the organization, and I don't want to teach anybody about it, because if I do, then I'm gonna have to learn something else.
Right. Then I might have to learn or go, like, I could be replaced.
Right. And how would I go about learning something new? Will I be given that opportunity? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which is the joy of consulting, because it's like, well, I don't care if you want to do this for me. Sure, I'll go find something else to do. You know?
Right. I tell people all the time, like, I have some friends that have been trying out consulting, and I tell them, like, there are a lot of pros to consulting. There are some drawbacks, like paid time off. Let's just say that you're doing like this standard kind of hourly, like, no, you don't get paid time off. I was in a situation where we had like an emergency, and I went like super negative PTO, and then our company, you have to pay it back if you do that. Like, you just work with them and then you pay it back. But I still had to take time off while I was paying it back, and I got really used to not getting paid for it. And then when I got my PTO back, I'm like, this is kind of lame. Like, I kind of don't want this anymore. It was super weird. But I tell people, like, I feel like I have more job security as a contractor than as a full-time employee. It's the only time at this place that is still the same place. So they would do their renewals for contracts yearly when they do their annual yearly planning, AYP.
Yep.
So they have to go get funding first, and then they can figure out who they're going to keep and who they're not. And so, yeah, the independents and stuff, they would freak out a lot, like, kind of at that time, because they don't sign the contracts until like 2 weeks before the end for some reason. I don't know. So there's always like 4 to 6 weeks that they're flipping out because they don't know. But the employees, it was year round. Those people, rumors of layoffs happen, like,
oh, yeah.
And it's just year round, all the time. Horror stories of, I do know a person that was there. This is before I was there, and they had gone out with their manager, their team, and they had this really great, they had a celebration party about how great they were doing, and then they all had voicemails after that party that their whole department had been laid off, and they had to come get their stuff on Friday or something stupid like that.
Did they send them on the celebration meal on purpose? Like, Was it a
No.
secret like, hey, go take these people out
Just
for beers?
coincidental?
No, yeah, their leadership had no clue.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we also, our model is if you go to a place where you have a model where a company does a lot of that like contract finding and signing work for you, that makes it way easier than if you're straight independent.
Oh, 1,000,000%. I mean, I've had contracts that like, hey, just so you know, this is your 2-week notice. We had a bad quarter and we're just gonna cut all contracting. And I'm like, all right, one email and then I'm back to work. And everybody else around me is like, time to hit the phones, time to hit the emails. I've got to send out all these things. I gotta freshen up my network and get all these connections made again. And I'm like, all right, have fun.
Oh yeah, the productivity goes like
Zero.
into the toilet. Yep.
Yeah.
We had Steve and I were at a place and together, and they were like, "Yep, all contractors donezo today," or something. We'd been working from home already, but
It was like a staggered approach. It was like, hey, some people are done today, some people are done in 2 weeks, some people are done in 4 weeks, some are done in 6 weeks or whatever it was. And it
Right.
was like, okay.
yeah.
I've also been in the case as an employee, like that first round of layoffs happens and you're like, wait, what? We're having layoffs? We just you called us, and really it should be obvious at some point in your career, like, hey everybody, big meeting together, all at 3:00.
Right. where you've never had a big meeting like that, like
Right.
ever. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Like, oh, of course. They're announcing that they're going to have layoffs, and then you're like watching your calendar daily to see if your manager suddenly drops a meeting on your calendar, like, oh hey, 4:00 on Thursday, let's get together and chat about upcoming projects. Yeah, there aren't any.
Yep.
Or something like that. But
I was at a place that had poor performance for like 2 quarters in a row, like the back half of the year too, or something. But so everybody was feeling like really bad about the poor performance, and then all of a sudden, one morning, everybody goes in and they had been purchased by another company that was in the same space as them. Like, so nobody knew that it was like even being talked about. Just all of a sudden, they were bought, and I'm like, I think I got a message from like one of our people. They're like, how's everybody feeling there? Because it was like in the news or something. And I'm like, everybody hates everything right now. Like nobody's doing anything because there are no answers to any questions.
yeah, the purchase takeover, that's another fun one to be as a consultant and watch. Like, just sit back and wait for the dust to settle, because nobody's getting anything done for a while.
Yeah. I don't know if it's maybe just our geographic area too, but there's a lot of blurred lines, it feels like, between contractors and full-time employees. Sometimes I was at a place where they were offended that I didn't go to like their company things. They're like, well, aren't you gonna go? And I'm like, do you want to pay me for that? Like, sure. I mean, I can, but you still gotta pay for it.
Just tell me what category to put it on my timesheet and I'll be there.
Mhm.
Well, and happy hours and things like that. Those are tough things. Like, yeah, I want to be there for the team building, but I also don't really care that much about the team, because I mean, I want it to be a good team, but I'm not going to be here forever.
Right. And there are certain like rules about what you can attend and can't, or what they can offer you and what they can't. Because, and I'm trying to remember the company that it was. Was it
Microsoft.
Google or Microsoft? Where all of a sudden it was like, hey, you're treating these contractors like employees, and it caused a kerfuffle.
And somebody sued because they wanted the benefits of the employees, like, but you're a contractor, like,
Right.
And you didn't apply for the job, or maybe
Right.
they didn't get it, I don't know, but
All it takes is one moron to screw it all up, right? Because I'd be like, okay, I'll come to your event, but I'm still a contractor, right? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we're good. You know,
Yeah, I mean, we were at a place where we had a change in leadership and they wanted to do a big team building thing. And we made sure to get clarification, like because even some of the full-time employees were like, well, are we going to get paid for this? And so they were like, everybody's getting paid, contractors, full-time employees, everybody come.
I
We
mean,
were
those-
there together, Steve.
really?
I don't
It
know. Maybe.
works.
Oh, you know what? That was probably before your time, actually. No. I don't know. Maybe it was like maybe right before.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Those are the fun things where, like, I was at a company that did Agile for the whole project and all the business and everything, and everybody goes to the Agile training, and everybody sees the same thing, right? And then there's the other side of the coin where all the employees go off to the thing and they come back with their ideas and like, all right, tell me what we're supposed to do. Well, it'd take too long. You'll catch up eventually. All right, this is gonna be fun.